Le Canada est mieux servi quand il y a plus de Québécois au pouvoir que quand il y a plus d'Albertains au pouvoir.
Ben, je suis libéral, alors c'est sûr que je pense que oui. Certainement, quand on regarde les grands premiers ministres du 20e siècle, les seuls qui ont vraiment tenu le coup, c'était des députés du Québec. C'était Trudeau, c'était Mulroney, c'était Chrétien, c'était Paul Martin. Alors, on a un rôle, ce pays, le Canada, est à nous.
Quebec was the odd province out when it came to supporting the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Quebecers opposed pipelines while pumping sewage into their own waterways. Tankers from the Middle East continue to supply eastern Canada and Quebec with unethical oil, but no one in Quebec bats an eye. Instead, they whimper and whine about the evils of Western Canada's oil sector. Quebecers get special privileges when it comes to income taxes. You'll notice all the special exemptions residents of Quebec get from the federal government the next time you file your taxes. Quebecers pay for much of their debt and healthcare using money from Western provinces received through transfer and equalization payments. Quebecers complain about Canada and Albertans, while Canadians and Albertans cater to Quebec's bilingualism with French on cereal boxes and highway signs. French is the first language of less than 25% of Canadians. Almost 100% of that 25% is concentrated in Quebec, yet here we are in Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan, being forced to frustratedly search for the English section of our instruction manuals and booklets. Quebecers, in particular Montrealers, perpetually vote for left-wing governments federally, provincially, and municipally. They elect governments that tax more, suppress free speech, and cater to every facet of identity politics. You'll notice that it's perfectly fine for Quebec to ban burqas and religious garb, but it was absolutely unacceptable for Conservatives to propose a less severe and less consequential ban on burqas during the citizenship ceremony. Quebec receives special treatment not just from the federal government, but from media and from journalists. In Quebec, they have language police who enforce strict and draconian rules that punish anyone who uses too much English. Quebec punishes businesses for not advertising in French and for not having enough French throughout their establishments. In Quebec, if you don't speak enough French, you'll be punished with severe fines and, in some cases, even prison. Quebec punishes free speech more than any other province in Canada. Just ask Remy Couture, a gory filmmaker who was charged with obscenity and moral corruption for making a violent, fetishized zombie film. Had it not been for a reasonable jury, Remy Couture could have faced bankruptcy or prison for making art that Quebec's crown prosecutors deem morally corrupt and pornographic. Over the past 20 years, a majority of Canada's bizarre and outdated obscenity laws have been used in Quebec. In 2017, there were more hate crime, hate speech prosecutions in Quebec than in any other Canadian province. The past 3 Liberal Prime Ministers were from Quebec. Western alienation and Quebec favoritism was the theme of both Trudeau governments. Both Trudeau and Jean Chrétien were from Quebec. Thomas Mulcair, the NDP's last left-wing socialist leader, represented Quebec. The father of GST, Brian Mulroney, was from Quebec. Even the NDP's most successful leader to date, Jack Layton, was born in Quebec. Quebec has been home to some of Canada's most destructive and regressive leaders. Whenever Canada has faced a prime minister from Quebec, alienation, economic hardship, and regressive identity politics have been leading themes in Ottawa. In Canada, we value free speech, or at least we try to, more than Quebec does. According to the polls, Canadians support ethical Canadian oil, while Quebec remains the odd man out. Canadian provinces from coast to coast send terrible liberal left-wing governments packing when they fail, and Quebec repeatedly re-elects them. Quebecers have repeatedly shown us that they are not Canadian, nor do they really like or value us. Instead, they churn out terrible prime ministers and federal leaders while trying to force their own agendas upon the rest of us. It's time for Quebec to leave Canada. It's time for Quebec to separate and become its own ghetto, hillbilly mini-France. If Quebec doesn't want Canada, we don't want Quebec. If Quebec continues to disrespect Canada, Canadians need to start encouraging another referendum. No more equalization payments or transfer payments from Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan. No more bilingualism. No more favoritism in Ottawa. Dear Quebec, shape up or ship out. Sincerely, the rest of Canada.